While some MLB teams wait until the offseason to build a winner, the bold ones do it at the trade deadline. A well-played roster move in July can flip a season, change a narrative, and rewrite a franchise's future. We've seen it before. Quiet trades sparking October fireworks. Unknowns turning into legends, and superstars showing up when it matters most. But which moves actually lived up to the hype? Well, every single one on this list. These are the most impactful trade deadline additions of all time. The deals that didn't just boost a roster, but altered the course of baseball history. Big trade deadline deals don't usually come with a flowing mullet and 100-mile-an-hour heat. But the first name on our list absolutely does.
See ya.
Years before blowing up birds with his fastball, 6'10" Randy Johnson became figuratively and literally one of the biggest trade deadline acquisitions in MLB history.
You talk about blowing somebody away.
In July of 1998, the Mariners and the big unit hit a wall. The team's floundering, contract talks are dead, and with free agency looming, Seattle ships him to Houston, where he makes an immediate impact, going 10-1 with a 1.28 ERA.
Exciting day in Astros history, Jim.
Sure was, Brownie. It was fun to watch the big unit go out there and do his thing.
116 strikeouts in just 11 starts. 4 complete game shutouts. Absolute domination. Front page of Sports Illustrated. I mean, Astros fans are hyped, like foaming at the mouth hype. Then, October hits. Johnson gets the ball in games 1 and 4 of the NLDS against San Diego, and he loses both. Not because he chokes, but because Kevin Brown turns into a buzzsaw and the Astros forget how to hit. Johnson allows just 3 runs in 2 starts. It's still not enough. Randy walks in free agency, but for 2 unforgettable months, Houston gets a front row seat to some of the most devastating pitching the game has ever seen. But forget regular season firepower. If clutch postseason moments are more your thing, Aaron Boone has you covered. Sure, Boone's a solid third baseman with an okay bat, but when the Yankees snag him at the 2003 trade deadline, nobody sees this coming. Bottom of the 11th, Game 7 of the ALCS. Boone steps up, first pitch, boom.
Boone hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series. Boone, a hero in Game 7.
Boone crushes a walk-off homer to beat the Red Sox and send the Yankees to the World Series. It's easily one of the most iconic swings in franchise history. And that's saying something for a team loaded with legendary home run moments. Is Boone's shot up there alongside a pretty big homer from another Yankee great with the first name Aaron?
Number 62.
Absolutely.
It gets mentioned to me whether I'm walking through an airport, however far away from New York City I am.
No Boone trade, no Boone blast. That's the power of a deadline deal done right. The Yankees would go belly up in the World Series, but different story for the Astros in 2017 when they made another cannonball-sized splash at the deadline, landing Detroit Tigers legend Justin Verlander. Former league MVP, Cy Young Award winner, strikeout machine, a future Hall of Famer with over a decade's worth of dominance in Detroit. And just when it looks like he's staying put, the Stros swoop in, Verlander waives his no-trade clause, and the deal gets inked minutes before the deadline clock strikes 0. His first start in Houston, electric. The postseason, historic. 4 wins in 6 starts, 2.21 ERA. And, oh yeah, JV helps deliver the Astros their first World Series title ever. Say what you will about the Astros, but you can't tell the story of the 2017 season without Houston's last-minute steal, Justin Verlander. Speaking of steals, no one did it better than Rickey Henderson. You know the Man of Steel as a longtime athletic, but you might not remember where his second stint with the team ends. Where else? At the MLB Trade Deadline. Now, Toronto's already stacked, but with Rickey Henderson, they become dangerous. He brings a whole new dimension to the Blue Jays lineup. Speed, swagger, and elite scoring ability. I mean, we're talking 37 runs scored in just 44 regular season games. Jump to Game 6 of the '93 World Series. Bottom of the 9th. Jays trail the Phillies by 1. Rickey draws a critical leadoff walk. A few batters later, Joe Carter launches a 3-run shot for the ages.
Touch it all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Carter's long ball scores Toronto back-to-back titles. and marks the first time a World Series ends with a walk-off home run by the trailing team in the bottom of the ninth. Backyard stuff. So Rickey doesn't hit the blast, but without him, it's likely the blast doesn't end the series. It's July 2008, and the Brewers need a game changer. Someone who can make pitch counts, rotations, and days off feel optional. They need a just give him the ball and get out of the way type guy. They need reigning Cy Young winner CC Sabathia. Cleveland's fading fast, and with CC on an expiring deal, they ship their ace to Milwaukee for a handful of talent 24 days ahead of the trade deadline. Not exactly a last-second acquisition at the buzzer, but still close enough to make our list. In 17 starts, Sabathia delivers 11 wins, 7 complete games, 3 shutouts, and posts a mean 1.65 ERA.
The big guy is just carrying this team on his shoulders right now.
And 3 times in a row, he pitches on short rest to help drag Milwaukee into the postseason for the first time in 26 years. One man, one mission, one overly hydrated city going wild. Milwaukee's journey to the postseason, one for the ages. While trade deadline deals might feel like a modern phenomenon, they actually go way back. Just ask the 1964 St. Louis Cardinals, who pull off one of the most lopsided deadline deals of all time. The Cards deal pitcher Ernie Broglio, a former NL wins leader, to the Cubs. In return, a speedy 25-year-old outfielder named Lou Brock. Cub fans are riding high. Cardinal fans, not so much, until Brock goes to work. The man who would later earn the nickname Base Burglar hits .348 down the stretch, swipes 33 bags, and helps power St. Louis to a World Series win over the Yankees.
The St. Louis Cardinals win the World Series, a series that will be replayed time and again through the long, cold winter.
Brock goes on to become a Hall of Fame legend and the all-time stolen base king until he's passed by one of the previous guys on our list, Rickey Henderson. Along the way, he also becomes a proud member of baseball's exclusive 3,000 hit club. But if not for the Cardinals' seemingly underwhelming deadline move, chances are we aren't still talking about Lou Brock more than 60 years later. Now fast forward to 2024, and you can see just how much a late season trade at the deadline can change everything. Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers are cooking, but they still need a few final pieces to put them over the top. So instead of chasing big names, LA goes for precision over splash, targeting a dependable starter, a dynamic utility bat, and one more power arm for the bullpen. They wheel and deal and land a trade deadline trifecta: Jack Flaherty, Tommy Edman, and Michael Kopech. Flaherty steadies the rotation and blanks the Mets in Game 1 of the NLCS.
The hometown kid, Jack Flaherty. Yes, Dodger Stadium, get to your feet and give this man some love.
7 scoreless innings of pure calm.
You know, it's hard not to smile about those things. This game is fun. This game's a lot of fun, and I've been lucky to do it since I was a little kid.
Then, in the World Series opener, he keeps things just tight enough through 5+, setting the stage for Freddie Freeman to deliver a grand slam for the ages.
Gibby, meet Freddie! Game 1 of the World Series!
Tommy Edman brings instant energy, big hits, and even bigger moments. His homer against the Mets might be the biggest swing of his career, helping LA punch their ticket to the Fall Classic. And Michael Kopech? Straight up beast mode all postseason long. 10 appearances, all gas, no breaks. His signature moment? It's Game 3 of the World Series. Yankees threatening, crowd roaring. But Kopech slams the door shut and flips the series on its head.
And the Dodgers dominate Game 3.
That's it! It's a World Series win for LA!
A perfect example of how small, under-the-radar moves in July can pay off big in October. Okay, how about a trade deadline deal that doesn't end with the Yankees losing a World Series? In 2021, the big question in Atlanta: how can the Braves save their season? Few could have imagined the answer would be replacing their entire outfield. But when a star like Ronald Acuna Jr. goes down for the year, wild things happen. Like Atlanta trading for Jock Peterson, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, and Jorge Soler. All outfielders, all at the deadline, and all deliver. Rosario bats .560 in the NLCS and hits a pivotal 3-run moonshot in Game 6. Good enough to earn him Series MVP honors. Jock Peterson, he straight rocks. earning the nickname Jocktober for his October heroics, all while rocking a pearl necklace that becomes the most talked about fashion accessory in baseball and among grandmothers everywhere.
Pearls of power, pearls of wisdom.
It's Jocktober, 454 feet.
And speaking of grannies, Adam Duvall finishes as the NL leader with 113 RBI, including a monster grand slam in the World Series.
Touch 'em all, Adam Duvall. It is 4-0 Atlanta.
And Jorge Soler, he sets the tone early with a leadoff homer in Game 1 against Houston, then seals it in Game 6 with a 3-run blast that exits stadium stage left, breaking the game open and delivering an instant all-time Atlanta sports ball. Soler also becomes just the third trade deadline acquisition in MLB history to win World Series MVP. But one of the biggest trade deadline stories just might belong to the 2004 Boston Red Sox. Montreal's Orlando Cabrera isn't the flashiest name on the market, but he's just what Boston needs. The Sox are stuck in limbo with Nomar Garciaparra, who's still bitter after the team's failed attempt to replace him with A-Rod. Rather than sit idle, Boston pulls a trigger, trading the face of the franchise for a slick fielding shortstop from Montreal.
That's the guy that won the Gold Glove in 2001.
Cabrera does more than just steady the infield. He ignites the entire team. In the ALDS, he rips a bases-clearing double to help sweep the Angels. Then come the Yankees. 7 games, 11 hits, 5 RBIs. Cabrera bats .379, playing like a guy who hasn't a clue about some 86-year-old curse of the Bambino. In the World Series, Boston goes off, sweeping St. Louis as Cabrera chips in clutch at-bats and signature defense. He's not just part of the story. Cabrera's the trade deadline spark that helps rewrite Red Sox history. Another clutch trade deadline pickup involving an Expos player heading to greener pastures? Montreal's Donn Clendenon, who the Mets make a move for in 1969. Clendenon, aka Clink, is a veteran hitman coming to New York to stabilize the lineup. Nothing more, nothing less. But once the calendar flips to October, he's not just in the lineup, he is the lineup, coming through with big moment swings that leave pitchers scratching their heads. In the World Series, Clendenon becomes a full-blown problem for the Orioles, batting .357 with 3 home runs, one in Game 2 and another in Game 4. Plus a 2-run shot in Game 5 that flips the momentum and helps New York complete one of the biggest upsets in baseball history. Clendenon doesn't just deliver, he dominates, becoming the first trade deadline acquisition ever named World Series MVP. From one Don to another, let's jump to the 1980s with former AL MVP Don Baylor. For context, the 80s were an interesting time in baseball. Case in point, the Twins' acquisition of Baylor right at the 1987 deadline. Why is it interesting? Well, he's seen as a past his prime 38-year-old battle-tested DH. A guy who's seen it all, but hasn't won it all since making a brief cameo with the 1970 Orioles. The Twins are young, and Baylor brings instant credibility and much-needed balance. In Game 1 of the ALCS, he comes through in a tight spot. 8th inning, tie game, Baylor steps in and hits a go-ahead RBI single to help Minnesota knock off Detroit. Then, in the World Series, Game 6, Don does it again. The Twins trail in the 5th until Baylor launches a 2-run laser to left, tying the game and helping light the fuse for what would become a monster blowout win. His steady leadership drives the Twins to their first championship since moving to Minneapolis, and finally earns Don that elusive ring he chased for years. Now to someone who doesn't just help his team, he saves their season. Steve Pearce. Yes, guy who played for every AL East team not named the Yankees, Steve Pearce. Well, check that. He played 12 games for the Pinstripes in 2012, but you get the idea. We're talking classic middle-of-the-road career journeyman here. So when Boston grabs him from Toronto at the 2018 trade deadline, not much is expected. But once October hits, Pearce goes off. 3 home runs in the World Series, 8 RBIs. Games 4 and 5, he practically wins them by himself. The result? World Series MVP. The first trade deadline pickup to take home the hardware since, Donn Clendenon nearly a half-century earlier. Steve Pearce, once cast off by Toronto, becomes the ultimate example of how a deadline deal can turn a role player into a franchise legend. While Toronto are sellers in 2018, in 1992, the Blue Jays are serious buyers, hungry for their first ever world title.
Pat Gillick just hung up the phone. Maybe he's still trying to get the pitcher he's looking for.
So they go fishing at the deadline and reel in David Cone from the Mets.
2.83 earned run average this year, his best since 1988.
A proven ace and a strikeout artist who levels up Toronto's rotation from the word go. Cone gets the ball twice in the ALCS and twice more in the World Series. The stat lines don't scream dominance, but his presence, unshakable. Veteran energy, big game command. And in Game 2 of the Fall Classic, Cone flashes more than just his arm. Facing John Smoltz, he ropes an RBI single. Yes, a pitcher drives in a run against one of baseball's best in the World Series. The Jays hold on, and when the dust settles, Toronto celebrates its first World Series championship. One that, without David Cone, might not have come until a year later.
The winners and still world champions, the Toronto Blue Jays.
Few things in baseball are as thrilling as back-to-back World Series titles. Few teams ever pull it off. But perhaps even rarer, a player reaching back-to-back World Series on two different teams. At the 2009 trade deadline, the Phillies go big, landing defending AL Cy Young winner Cliff Lee. And from the second he takes the mound, Lee makes it clear. He's not here to help. He's here to overpower the competition. NLDS, complete game win. NLCS, 8 shutout innings. Then come the Bronx Bombers. Game 1 of the World Series, 10 strikeouts, 0 earned runs, and one of the coolest plays in postseason history.
Made that look easy. That was a rather nonchalant grab.
Lee wins games 1 and 5, finishing October 4-0 with a 1.56 ERA. Still not enough. The Phillies fall in 6. But Cliff Lee's story isn't done. 1 year later, he's dealt again, this time to the Rangers, a team with 0 playoff series wins in their nearly 50 years of existence. They bet the house on Lee, and he delivers. ALDS versus Tampa, 2 road wins, 21 Ks and no walks. ALCS in New York, 8 shutout innings with 13 punch-outs. Back-to-back years, back-to-back deadline deals, 2 teams, 2 World Series runs, 1 cold-blooded ace. Despite Cliff Lee's heroics, Texas comes up short in the World Series, proving even the best trade deadline moves don't guarantee a title. The same goes for the Mets in 2015. New York's loaded on pitching, but the bats are with a slumping, banged-up lineup that's running on fumes. Until Yoenis Céspedes enters the chat. Power, swagger, cannon for an arm. It's late, but New York pulls off a deadline miracle with just minutes to spare. La Potencia ignites the offense. In just 57 games, he hits .287 with 17 big flies and 44 RBIs, becoming the electric centerpiece of one of the most thrilling second-half turnarounds in Mets history.
He has simply been enormous.
October baseball returns to Queens, and Citi Field comes alive. Against the Dodgers, Céspedes unloads a critical 3-run shot in Game 3, helping the Mets take the series in 5. While Daniel Murphy steals the spotlight in the NLCS, Céspedes chips in timely hits and solid defense as the Mets open the broom closet and sweep Chicago to earn their spot in the Fall Classic for the first time in 15 years. But just like in 2000 against their crosstown rivals, the Amazons' wheels fall off on the game's grandest stage. On the flip side of the Mets' historic run, you have the Kansas City Royals, who make 2 monster splashes at the 2015 deadline and both hit big. KC is desperate for a frontline starter, and they find one in the previous season's NL strikeout king, Johnny Cueto. Cueto comes through and then some, tossing a gem in the ALDS to send Houston packing and KC to the championship series.
Johnny Cueto came to play tonight.
Then, with the spotlight burning brightest, he throws a complete game 2-hitter in the World Series. Commanding, unflinching, dominant. But that's just half the story. The other half? A trade with the A's lands them Ben Zobrist, the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Veteran, switch hitter, Mr. Clutch. He stabilizes the middle of the lineup and bats a smooth .303 throughout the postseason. Zobrist, or Zorilla as Casey fans call him, goes yard in a critical Game 4 of the ALCS. Then in the World Series, he records 3 hits in Game 1 and scores 5 runs in the series, including 1 in extra innings of the title-clinching Game 5 win over the Mets.
The Royals, 2015 World Champions!
2 deadline deals, 2 postseason heroes, and Kansas City's first world title in 30 years. What's that? You want one more all-time great trade deadline deal? Let's do it. This one's a little different, because unlike most moves on this list, the '87 Braves deadline deal doesn't spark instant magic. There's no postseason heroics, just a masterclass in playing the long game. The Braves, dead last in the NL West and going nowhere fast, ship veteran Doyle Alexander to Detroit. In return, some 20-year-old minor leaguer named John Smoltz. At the time, it's your classic contender rents a vet, seller takes a lotto ticket that probably goes nowhere kind of deal. In early returns, all Tigers. Alexander goes 9-0 and helps Detroit clinch the AL East. Smoltz doesn't even sniff the grass that season in Atlanta. But here's the thing about lotto tickets. Every once in a while, they hit big. Smoltz spends the next 20 seasons in Atlanta, racking up 8 All-Star nods, a Cy Young, and 200-plus wins to go with over 150 saves. Something no other pitcher in MLB history has ever done. He becomes the cornerstone of 14 straight division titles and helps lead the Braves to the 1995 World Series crown. Not bad for a no-name minor leaguer. The '87 Braves remind us, trade deadline brilliance doesn't always show itself that October or even the next October. It takes 8 long years for Atlanta to finally cash it in for a World Series ring. Sometimes you just need a little patience and a future Hall of Famer hiding out in your farm system. So the next time the trade deadline rolls around, remember, it's not just about blockbuster names or headline-grabbing deals. Sometimes it's the under-the-radar additions, the clubhouse glue guys, the steady arms and clutch bats that flip the script in October. Because in baseball, legends and legendary moves aren't just born in the offseason. They're made at the trade deadline. Now, which top-shelf trade deadline moves did we miss? Let us know in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe to MLB Vault for the best baseball history content anywhere.